so glad that things are changing. Okay.
Yeah, or at least we're talking about them changing.
Talking about change, because growing up, you know, and having consent over your body, and I'm talking about things like, you know, your uncle would come over and my uncle would come over and like grab my cheeks, and I hated it.
And pinch the heck out of them, right?
I mean, I would be like, and I would tell my mom every time, be like, I hate that. I hate it. And my mom would be like, oh, it's okay, you know, it's fine, you know, just, he's your uncle. And I was like, but I don't like it.
It hurts.
It hurts, you know?
It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think now that we're talking about expanding this concept of, you know, you don't have to give hugs or let your cheeks be, you know, mangled, you know, in order to be friendly, or in order to be, you know, family. Like, you don't owe people access to your body in any way you don't want to give it to them.
Yeah, especially as a kid. The hashtag #MeToo movement and the steady stream of stories about harassment and assault has led to an ongoing conversation about boundaries and consent.
Which is long overdue.
Yes.
Okay? Because it's not enough to excuse bad behavior by saying that's just the way it was, all right, back then. This is something that parents now have to tell their kids. You really have to start explaining what's going on.
Yeah. The question that people are asking is, at what age should we start teaching our kids about consent? And I'm going to tell you something, I think early.
Yes.
I'm 3 years old, you know, this is your body, you know. And then the other question is, should kids be taught about consent in the classroom?
The only thing people get thrown with this discussion is I feel like they hear the word consent and they immediately go to, you know, sex.
Right.
And I don't think consent is we're talking about just your body and your space. And I'm talking about everything from, you know, one of the things that drives me crazy, absolutely will send me apoplectic, is if somebody blocks my movement.
Yeah.
You know, like you're trying to walk through a door and somebody blocks you.
Yeah.
It really drives me crazy.
Right,
you know,
right.
and it's like, but you have the right, I think, teaching, and I agree with you that's I think a lot of parents or a lot of adults sometimes when they hear about talking to kids about consent, they're like, wait, are we
talking about sex?
Yeah, are we talking about that? And no, we're talking about you get to decide what happens to you.
To you, you know, and that's on a large scale and a small scale too, right?
Right.
Well, we asked our Facebook friends, should we teach kids about consent in grade school? 92% of you said yes, and 8% said no.
Yeah, but I thought this was interesting. The percentage, was a huge percentage that said yeses, but those who said no, like, really said no.
Yeah, right.
They really disagreed.
Yeah.
Wendy McFadden-Rife commented, they are kids for God's sakes. Let them be kids before shoving all this stuff down their throats. Lots of exclamation points. I want my kids and grandkids to have some fun. There's no rush in making them adults so fast, and shame on people that do that. Or that I think that again, I think that she's confusing.
Right.
Or she's conflating, you know, talking about sex with, you don't have to let every single person who asks you
for a hug or a kiss or a this.
Yeah,
or,
that some things are inappropriate and some things, it's your choice.
And I get to define that even if I'm 3 or 4 years old.
And I think I think it's good for everyone, because I think that boys aren't given, they're taught things that are not helpful to them in terms of what it means to be a boy, like to go after people, to touch them, to push them, to do all that. And that's roughhousing.
You know, girls don't do that, right? In general.
We're not taught to.
We're not taught to.
But I think it begs the question, like, it's good for everybody to be taught that they have control over their body.
On the other side, Rhonda Harrigan said, teach them that at home, okay? And support the teaching in school. Okay, well, I like that.
That works for me. Our Me Time team went out with our cameras and asked a few people what they thought. Here's what they said. Take a look.
I think that we start teaching kids about consent probably in their teenage years, or maybe earlier than that.
You sense it with your own child. You know, you start talking, they start inquiring more, you know you need to say more. If you answer a question and they're done, you're done. You don't need to go more. It's kind of common sense, for me anyway.
I agree with her. It is common sense.
Well, I think the gentlemen were a little bit old, and they're teenagers. I'm like, dude, I think you can start, and you should start that much younger.
Yeah, me too. Well, this is a very important topic, and we have a lot of questions about it. Joining us today is licensed therapist and founder of the FamilyCoach.com blog, Dr. Catherine Perlman. Welcome to Me Time.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Now, what is the right age to start talking about consent?
Toddler, 2, 3, 4 years old.
Girl, I agree with you. Absolutely.
So what is it, people, because we hear people say, well, aren't children too young to grasp the concept?
Kids know you have to ask permission before you get a cookie. They know they have to keep their hands to themselves. And my kids know when I say no, you cannot have another video, then that means no. No means no. So at 2 and 3 and 4, they can understand this, and then you can expand on the concept as they get older. But yeah, absolutely start when they're young. They can get it.
And having that conversation about consent does not mean that you're having a conversation for the people who are wary about it. You're having a conversation about sex.
Absolutely.
And I think we were talking about this earlier, people conflate the two and they think, well, that's just too young to have that conversation. And I think it's just never too young to tell a kid that you get to say no when it comes to your body.
Absolutely. You don't want your kid to be pushed around or to deny feelings that they themselves feel uncomfortable about something. We talk about good touch and bad touch, and at a young age is the same thing. You are in charge of your body. You're entitled to say, no, I don't want something.
My daughter was at school, and she had a sub one day, and it was a male sub, and she was in 5th grade, and she came home and she told me, she said, Mom, I didn't like the way he walked up behind me and he stood over me longer than he stood over other kids, and it made me feel uncomfortable. And I told her, I said, you know what? Then go with that feeling,
right? Right.
And I was like, and if he does it again, then we need to talk about it and make sure that we call the principal and just talk about that you feel uncomfortable, because that's okay to have that feeling,
right?
But when I was a kid, my mother would have been like, you know what? Just the teacher, you're just standing there.
We all were denied thinking that. We're like, it's nothing. We feel uncomfortable and we think, oh, it was nothing. But then that's how we grow up, and we don't speak up for ourselves, and that's how other people think that they can do things to us because we won't say anything. We'll deny it that it even happened.
Like, what are some of the ways we can language this or say this to our kids to help them understand what you're saying, that like not to ignore that you're feeling, when you're feeling something, you don't have to ignore it.
Right. So we often tell kids, hug grandma, grandpa, and then they say no, and we say, you have to hug grandma, grandpa. So actually, when the kid says, I don't want to, then respect them. If you respect them, then they'll say, oh, my voice matters. But as soon as we say, no, that's disrespectful, you better go hug grandma, then they totally lose their voice. So, let them speak up for themselves and honor them and be a good role model. If you're tickling them and they say stop, oh, okay. Yes. I'm done. Yeah.
I'm done. Well, a 3rd grade teacher in Los Angeles designed a simple chart to explain the concept of consent to her students, right? And some of the things she has on this chart is, what does it mean to give consent? And what does it mean to give consent?
I give you permission.
Yeah.
I am aware of what's happening, and I give you permission to borrow something, to touch my hair, to hug me, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And she had on there also, what does consent sound like? I think that's really interesting.
Right. I mean, we have to listen closely, and look at body language as well as what is person saying. They're saying, oh, okay, sure,
if somebody's
you
going,
can hug me.
Yeah.
No, that person is saying one thing, but their body language is showing they don't want that.
Yeah. And I like this other question too. What do we need to ask for consent? When
do we have to ask for consent? What times?
Yeah, whenever we want to touch somebody in any kind of way, is it okay if I hug you? Is it okay if I touch your hair?
Yeah.
Is it okay if I hold your hand?
Yeah.
And then listen to the answer.
Yeah.
Because I cannot tell you how many times somebody said, oh, can I touch your hair, as they're touching it?
Yeah.
Pregnant belly, same thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That happened to me once and I wasn't pregnant.
Oh, man. Well, thank you so much, doctor, so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meet Time with Frangela.